Yeah, what is going on, everybody? It's Shooting the Shit Uncensored. It's 11 p.m. on a Friday night here in Sydney, Australia. And I've got a great guest. I have got Mr. Bill Demott, formerly known as Hugh Morris, formerly known as General Hugh G. Rection. Salute to the General. But guys, before I get into that conversation with Bill Demott, I just want to take a quick pause for the cause to thank some of those amazing sponsors and help keep the lights up in Austin Del Casa, or whatever it is you want to call it, the Austin household. But we'll get into it. First up is Sleefs.com. That's SLEEFS, Sleefs.com. Now, if you or someone you know is an athlete, you need to get them onto Sleefs. They have all your athletic wear and brands covered. They've got armbands, compression pants, compression shorts, compression socks, headbands, boots, mouth guards, and they've even got those dirty boxes that you hear me raving about every single episode. They've sent me boxes of these dirty boxes. They stay fresh. They stay dry. I'm an active guy. I work full time. I've got 3 kids. I go to the gym. I do podcasts every single week. So I'm always on the go. These boxes stay fresh. They stay dry. I actually threw out all my other boxes, and they've actually got some pretty cool, funky designs on the front of them. So Mrs. Austin is laughing about what's on the front of the boxes and not what's inside them for a change. But guys, go and check out sleeps.com. Use that promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. Also, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you head over to healthvape.com. This is your healthy vaping alternative. Listen, if you know a dirty, filthy cigarette smoker or one of those vapor people that chuck up those huge clouds, you need to get them onto Health Vape. It is the healthy vaping alternative the world has been looking for. All of their products, no nicotine, no addictive or harmful chemicals. They help restore your energy while giving you that vital boost you need to get through the day. And there is no nicotine, vitamin infused. Go and check out their vape and pod products. Use that promo code MWAPOD and get a 10% discount. Hell, even tell them Piers sent you. It won't do anything for you. It won't do anything for me. But hell, it's always good when someone is saying my name. But guys, also, while we're checking things out, thank you for tuning in to the MWA Podcast Network. We are your one-stop shop for all your pro wrestling content and media, and it is all free. We've got shows hosted by the former ECW original, the Kingpin, Angel Medina, and King Mega on Killing the Business every single week. They're breaking down what is going on in the world of wrestling. You need to check that show out. Also, check out Nights of the Gimmick Table, hosted by Boogaloo and Lowrider and Cade Lothbrock. Another amazing show. Check out the NXT Roundup. Check out Shooting the Shit, and just check us out. Give us a 5-star review. Subscribe, like, share. We appreciate it. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited. I'm over the moon. Let's get on with the show, and let's get on with my conversation with Mr. Bill Demott. And we're live. Bill, thank you for being a guest on Shooting the Shit Uncensored. Welcome.
Man, what that opening to this show is amazing. And I'm stuck on Nights of the Gimmick Table. Like I now I've got to watch that. I've got to tune in because that's the best name I've ever heard, man. How you doing, brother? Good to see you.
I'm doing well, brother. I'm doing well. Actually, talking about Knights of the Gimmick Table, they actually share something in common with you. They were trained, Boogaloo and Lowrider were trained by the unpredictable Johnny Rodz.
No kidding.
Yeah, and also ECW original Angel Medina on Killing the Business. He was also trained by Johnny Rodz.
Johnny Rodz guys are everywhere.
Yeah, man. You know what?
And people still want to talk to us after that.
But you know what? Johnny Rods has like literally, you brought in Hall of Famers into this business, and everyone I've spoken to who's trained under Johnny Rods, has this deep respect for the business. I don't know like what it is on how he trains them. Like I don't get that much detail, but it's like the respect that these people have for him and for the business is just unparalleled to anyone else I've ever spoken to.
Yeah, and I say this at a lot of the camps and the things that I still take part in. I started with Johnny in 1988, and a lot of people don't realize there was the 80s in this world, right? A lot of they're all too young to realize 1988. They got to go to their history books. But the first thing that Johnny taught us then, I can speak for that group of guys, is he taught us about the business before you hit the ropes. There was this other side to the business that a lot of people, didn't talk to you about, or you had to learn, as you earned and things like that. But Johnny really set everybody up to be successful. Whether you were successful in the business or not, he set you up to be successful in whatever you moved forward to. And every bit of my training comes from Johnny's training. I keep the things that I was taught and how I was trained and adapt it into this new era of wrestling. But Johnny's an amazing coach. He's an amazing guy, and he truly, talk about a guy who loves the business. That's why he's a Hall of Famer. But he taught you about the business. He gave you the tools to succeed in and out of the ring in wrestling. So.
What was your first meeting with Johnny Rods like? Do you remember like meeting him, walking into, because like, was this before it was Gleason's?
So he had Gleason's, and then there was another gym. It was I forget what street it was on, but it was on the other side of Brooklyn. So long story short, I left college early, and my dad, I tell this a lot. My dad didn't want me sitting around the house. I was a big cat, and he goes, "You're not just gonna just work for a living. I played football and wrestled in high school and college and things like that." So he brought me to this gym, and there's Johnny training these guys, and you see these big guys. They're flipping each other around. They're doing these suplexes. At the time, I didn't know what it was. So he let us watch, and my first encounter with Johnny was he walked over, he sized me up, looked me up and down, and said, "You can come and watch anytime you want, but clearly this isn't for you. Not everybody can do this."
Wow.
And I was like, well, what does that even mean? So on the ride home back to New Jersey, I told my dad, I'm like, who the hell does this guy think he is? Like, he doesn't know me. Yeah. And I was, I was a decent athlete, and I'm going, but the fact that I was told I couldn't do it, I went and, it's that old line, I begged, borrowed, and stole. I think the time was $3,500. I walked in there with cash the next week. And he looked at me, went, and then I spent 8 days a week, 42 hours a day with him. And I firmly believe that I'd like to think he saw something and challenged me to come back. And if I came back, great. And if not, he was right. But my first encounter with him was like, "You can't do this, kid." And I was like, well, damn.
Do you think looking back that was him like motivating? Like when you went in there, like were you, like you mentioned you were an athlete in school, but like were you like in shape or were you out of shape at the time? Was he sort of like saying, "Hey, you need to get to this level before you can"?
I was in shape, and but I was in like football shape. I was in like powerlifting shape. Come to find out, and I think a lot of people can relate to this. Everybody thinks they're in shape till they try to get into pro wrestling shape. Inside the 20-foot circle and all that. But I firmly believe he was going to go, okay, this guy looks like something. I'm going to call him out if he comes back. And thank goodness I came back and took it personally because Johnny spent a lot of time with all of his talent, but Johnny really spent time with me and lack of a better word, humbled me and gave me a respect for something that I was a casual fan of. before he gave me the inside track, and before you hit the ropes and you do all these things and learn how to roll, all the things that people hate to talk about.
Yeah.
Johnny hooked me and stretched me and made me appreciate that every hold meant something. And at the time, I'm like, well, I could wring this old guy's neck if I want to. I'm bigger, I'm stronger, all these things. But he showed me that wasn't what it wasn't about, and to respect the business, respect the people you were across from. And yeah, I think it was a motivating factor to see. Let's see if this cat comes back. And thank goodness I did. And I was in a great group. I mean, you had right before I was there, you had Mondo Clean, you had Taz. I came in after that. Then you had, the Dudleys came in, and Tommy Dreamer came in right after me, and all the guys, and then guys just came there to start training with Johnny, Public Enemy, all those guys, and the Headhunters, and all these cats, and they all went on to do good things. And I look at it as, look at Taz now, still 30 years plus.
Yeah.
Look at Dreamer now. Look, I'm still fortunate enough. Look at us now. So Johnny raised us right, and at the time it wasn't fun, and as you should, you get pissed off at your coach, and he's running me
Of
ragged, and
course.
I'm not learning anything, but it all sticks with you, and I'm grateful for that, and I love him, and it's funny to think that him and I connect social media wise, because two guys you'd never think would be on social media together, but at least I get to keep in touch, and I'm gonna try to. I'm headed up that way again next month, so I'm gonna try to stop in and see him and surprise him. I'm just afraid he's gonna take me down in front face lock.
Come here, kid. Let me show you a hold. It's funny because like Angel, who he started training with Johnny when he was like 17,
Yeah,
and me and him were having this conversation not too long ago, and he goes, "Bro, you look at like the Gleason's guys. There was like through that those genres of guys, like his genre, like through the 80s and 90s."
yep,
There was a lot of guys that were sort of falling off from like drug abuse and steroid abuse and stuff like that. He goes, not many of Gleason's guys got caught up in that shit because that was kind of just how Johnny really nurtured and cared about his trainees.
yeah, and Johnny commands respect without asking for it, and it's like it still goes today. You represent your coach and your gym or where you come out of, and I think when people talk about Johnny Rods, it's all positive, and it's all when you really do your homework on him. And some people, the younger cats, go, "Why is he in the Hall of Fame? I never heard of him." Well, you didn't get a job in the WWF. Vince Senior, that Johnny was his guy. You wanted to prove yourself, and you wanted to get in this business. You went through Johnny Rods, and if Johnny Rods gave you gave the old man the thumbs up, then you got an opportunity. And Johnny was the measuring stick for a lot of careers and a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think as well, like it's one of those things where it's like a lot of that footage from like Johnny Rods' era, like the WWF,
Yeah.
the majority of that was house shows. Like you get little bits of footage, but like man, I'd love to go back and watch like Bruno Sammartino, sorry, have a match at Madison Square Garden because like. And like the different eras and different genres of professional wrestling, like to have a 60-minute Broadway match, I don't think it could be done in 2022. Like,
For a lot of different reasons. I mean, I know there's some cats that can go, but to tell that story for that long and to hold the people's attention, and in this day and age, I think it'd be tough. But when I started, there was no internet. You couldn't go pull up YouTube or find a match. You were literally, unless you were part of a subscription where you got a tape 2 years after the matches were over and all these other things, you had to go to the libraries, or you had to try to find these. We had magazines. That's how you did your homework, and then you tried to find these cassette tapes and watch them, and you'd watch them ad nauseum till you watched every. And that's what Johnny did. He goes, watch it. Now just watch the other guy. Now watch the same match. Now watch the other guy. Now tell me why this happened. And he would quiz you. He would school you. Did you watch it? No, I didn't. Okay. Then he doesn't talk to you about it. But I think those days are missed. But I was a Northeast guy, so every Saturday night, we got the MSG. So I grew up on Pedro Morales and the midgets and the women going. So and you got to see Bruno those times in the garden, and and again black and white. So, but it was
It's crazy, man, because like I can remember, like I'm 40, and I remember a period in my life where there was no wrestling on TV, and I remember discovering, like, falling back in love with wrestling at like 11 or 12, finding the VHS tapes in the video store. That's where we used to go and get movies for all the millennials tuning in. But like I would literally get the same tapes and like just as you said, wear them fucking thin, you know.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those crazy things that you can appreciate. I think if you live through that era, like now, like I could sit there and I could probably get my kids to find me whatever I want to look on.
Yeah, that's the scary part. Is people go, "Hey, you remember this?" And you go, "No, I don't, because I never saw it." And they pull it up, and you go, "Where? How'd you do that?" So
it's nuts. But one thing like I've heard about Johnny is like when he's bringing his guys through, he really keeps them close for a long time. Like WSU, I'm not sure if that was around back in those times, but like when was it for you after training with Johnny that he sort of said, okay, now it's time for you to go out and start on the indies and start making a name for yourself?
I was fortunate enough at the time they had partnered Phil Feet, Mondo Clean before he became Damien Demento. We had that look, the Mohawks and the big guys, and so we were fortunate enough that Johnny made sure to get us reps. And by reps meaning if Johnny was booked on a show, we'd go with him, and we were bodies for people, and that's how you learn. So you were in Gleason's gym doing it, and then if Johnny said, "Hey, there's a show in Boston, and you're going," not you're getting paid, not you're, yeah, but I have to work the next day. Okay, then don't go. But he gave you opportunities, and Johnny kept putting people in front of other people that he trusted and that he wanted to see. Because if you're in the same gym over and over again, you're going to get very good at what you're doing in the gym. But now put it into use. And Johnny would always put us in places where we could be useful and learn against people. I mean, my first matches are against Sergeant Slaughter and Jimmy Snuka and Paul Orndorff and all these guys that literally threw me around like a rag doll. Not because I couldn't do anything, but because I needed to learn how to bump differently for each guy. I needed to listen and follow and shut my mouth and get a feel for the ring and how different people moved. And then, it was just opportunities. And then Johnny, someone came to Hercules Ayala came into the gym, and Black Gorman was there, and we were training with guys like that. And Johnny always had like I say guest trainers, but always dropping knowledge on us. And Johnny gave me the green light to go to Puerto Rico, and I was still greener than goose shit, but I was at least safe, and I didn't hurt anybody. And all of a sudden, I would say it was about a year. But it was a long year of training and everything. And even when I went out and started testing the waters, I wasn't ready. I had an idea, but I wasn't ready. And so I always went by keep your mouth shut, listen to what you were told. It doesn't matter what you think you can do what you're asked to do. And I always said this, I've been in the right place at the right time all my career, and it all starts with the way I was brought into the business. So people were smart enough to see my weak points and my strong points, told me how to make that work into my advantage, and I started to grow. So I was still at that time. You still had opportunities for Puerto Rico and Mexico and different areas where the territories were kind of almost done. I got to Smoky Mountain and go to all those places and do that, and then so 3 years in Puerto Rico, 3 years in Japan and Mexico. And then the original ECW was Eastern Championship Wrestling with Eddie Gilbert, and it just kept snowballing into this 30+ year career. But Johnny would be honest. Hey, if you want to go. You're going to look foolish, or hey, if you're going to go, remember this and come back. And everybody came back to Johnny. You didn't go, okay, I'm out and now I'm making $20 a match and I don't need to be here anymore. Now I'm a pro. Johnny lets you know you weren't a pro and this is home and come back. So I think a lot of guys took advantage of that until they really got busy and really became pros at what they did and started to make a living at it and became who they were.
Oh, absolutely. Did Johnny come up with the gimmick Big Sweet Williams?
Oh, so like I you get it because you talk to I forget a lot of things in my career, right? And everybody goes, oh, I've been hitting the head a lot and all these things.
Sure.
The one thing I'm never going to forget is he could not say my last name. So it's Demott, but he introduced me to everybody's Bill Williams.
He just renamed you.
He just renamed me. And this is before, I had anything. Yeah. So he introduced me one time to Pat Patterson. He goes, this is one of my guys, Bill Williams. And I'm going, who the hell is Bill Williams? And I wanted to go, it's Demott, but he called me Bill Williams.
Yeah.
And then he called me Big Sweet one time. And then it was like, oh, you have a match in Gleason's gym and you better come up with something. So he called me Big Sweet William.
That's insane. And how long did that name stick?
Big Sweet William lasted like almost that whole year. And I went out and, I was like a kid in a candy store. I went out and got tights and it said Big Sweet William across the back. And, I had shirts made Big Sweet William and all these things. And come to find out, I didn't, you didn't know then. I thought that name was sticking with me forever. Yeah. So
did you like the name? Were you like, oh, this is going to be my name? I can see it in lights, Big Sweet Williams.
Well, yeah. Everything I did then, I surrounded myself with Big Sweet William and tried to figure out what that means. So it was kind of like it was a takeoff of Jim the Anvil Neidhart. So I used the pink, I used the hot purples. And so here comes the name Big Sweet Williams. So you think I'm one way, but I was this cruel bastard, and I went out and I was a heel. So I took it as a play on words, but yeah, he couldn't say my name, and he introduced me to everybody's Bill Williams. And it's
Does
still,
he know how to pronounce it now?
I still no. He still when we do talk or share a message, he's still, hey, Mama Williams is on the phone. So it's funny that and that's so cool with me, and I'll keep that forever.
And after that year, is that when you changed to Crash the Terminator?
Yeah, I had an opportunity to go to Germany, and my buddy, my brother, Rocco Rock, Ted Petty, said, hey, and at the time, Road Warrior Animal had backed out of the tour, and they said, we need a big guy. And I looked at Teddy because I knew him. I'm like, I'm not ready to go on tour. What are you talking about? I never left the country or nothing. And and he's like, no, don't worry about it. You're in. So I told Johnny I was going. I went. When I got there, they took a pair of rusty scissors and shaved the sides of my head, and they painted my face, and I became Crash the Terminator.
Was that because the Terminator was the movie of the time? Because that was around the early 90s, right?
Yeah. And so you couldn't go. And I think at one point in the tour, they actually called me Road Warrior Crash.
Oh.
So Crash stayed with me. And by the time we got home from the Germany trip, people said, hey, how do we get a hold of that Crash guy? And the people that were asking were the Northeast promoters who knew me as Big Sweet William.
Wow! So the whole gimmick changed. They had no idea that you were the same.
I show up at the thing, booked as Crash, and they're like, "Hey, man, what's going on? What are you doing here?" I'm like, "Well, you called me you booked me to work," and they're like, "No," and I'm like, "It's me. It's I'm Crash." So the funny part about that was when I went to Puerto Rico, they brought me in as Crash, and we got there. And Hercules Ayala said to me, he pulled out a picture. He goes, hey, do you know this guy? And it was a picture of Big Sweet William. And I looked at him. I'm like, yeah, I know him. And he goes, do you have his number? Do you think he'd come to Puerto Rico? And it blew my mind.
Wow.
And I'm like, I looked at him and, very polite, sir, that's me. And he goes, no, the guy in the picture. I'm like, that's me.
Wow.
So I had to go to my hotel and pull out the tights that were in the picture.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, I guess we can't book you twice. And I was like, what is going on here? Like I'm trying to figure out the wrestling business, and I'm getting booked twice as the same guy. And I'm like, this is pretty bitching.
But you know what? Now as a veteran, you'd sit there and go, how do I work the gimmick? Come in here with a different look and come in as Big Sweet Williams, right?
If I was smarter, yeah, I'd go, okay, I'll get a hold of him, and I'd walk in as the different guy the next day and get a double payday out of it. But I always say to myself, I beat Mick Foley to the triple gimmick. I should have been Crash and Big Sweet William, and I could have really ran with that.
Oh, 100%. It could have been a definite thing there. But, you mentioned ECW, you got an opportunity to go into there. This was back when it was Eastern Championship Wrestling. Yeah. Still building a little bit of momentum there. But, getting that opportunity, how did that come about? And, did you see ECW at the time as this something that special that could lead to what it led to?
No, I had no idea. We got the opportunity from while we were in Japan. And Eddie Gilbert would go over for Wing over in Japan from time to time, and I worked with his brother Doug, and Kevin Sullivan was over there from time to time, and so Kevin had worked it out with Eddie that at the end of a tour in Japan, we'd fly into Philadelphia and work the show. So lo and behold, there's Eddie, and I know Eddie, and that was the night of the changeover. That was the night that Paulie was there and everything happened. I mean, we had the first ever barbed wire baseball match in the arena.
No shit.
And I think that was in 90. I want to say it was in 93, I think. And it was up for like match of the year and all these things, but it was the Headhunters against Miguel Perez Jr. and myself. So that's when that extreme stuff was happening. Sullivan had his wrenches he was hitting people with. And so we came from Japan with all the stuff we were doing. And then the turnover and that the birth of ECW. So I thought it was really cool. I went back a couple of other times for some things, but it just didn't work out because as ECW was starting and they were trying to take off, I was missing some tours. And that's how I made my living. So I missed a couple of tours in Japan, and then I had to go back to work. But I don't think anybody ever thought in a million years it would turn into what it did. And it was really cool to be there on the ground floor of it. And the original thought for 911 was me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it just didn't work out. And if you hear there's different stories and folklore about it. Well, I came back, with I had a shaved head and I shouldn't have shaved my head and I upset Paul and then there's different stories about it. But yeah, I was the original 911, and it worked out for everyone. ECW is legendary. Big Al got to run his 911, and that went on to have a fairly decent career. So. But
oh, absolutely. But that's the thing, 911, for what he did, shout out to Angel who says, tell Big Sweet Williams I said what's up.
What's up, my brother?
But for 911, his wrestling was always very limited, but what he did, all he needed to do was just go in there, pick someone up, choke slam, bang, crowd pops, gets out of the ring and leaves. You know what I mean? That thing, he became legendary in ECW, and he did literally one move.
Yeah, and I'm sitting there looking at it, man, I could probably still be working right now if I would have stuck to that routine.
I think anyone would, but in 94, you got a WWF tryout, and you did a couple of dark matches with WWF. What was the outcome of the tryout? What did they say to you? Will they give you feedback, or was it just not right now, or was it just a spot to do some job matches?
I got the opportunity. Jerry Jarrett had got in touch with me and got me for those days. So I went in. Good response. I had the feedback was great. I was treated great. I had guys. I was fortunate enough to have guys like Bigelow was there at the time, and two Jersey boys. So he came up to talk to me every night, and here I am doing the moonsault as a finish, and for the crowds that were there, they were like, "Whoa!" And so everybody was very happy with what was going on. And come to find out at the end of it, I think that's exactly when Jerry Jarrett had left the company. So when Jerry left the company, my name left with him. So I was kind of, I always teased my buddy Mike Drosy. We had the same tryout. So Drosy got the job and Jerry left and I was gone with Jerry. And that was my first experience with WWF. But I tell you what, I was like scared to death every night.
Who were you working in these matches? Like, was it always?
They were their I guess I hate this term, lack of a better term. They're enhancement guys they'd put in with other guys to see what they could do.
Yeah.
And geez, if I can remember the one guy's name, he was like, "Listen, here's what I do, and you just listen to me, kid." And and he really tried to big league me, and I just yes and all that stuff. And I respectfully say his stuff was rotten. And so the match itself was like not good, but the finish was good. And I hit the dipsy do, so they were just matches, not with anybody of relevance or importance. The one time we did have a great match, I took Crowbar with me because I trusted him. He knew what I was going to do, and I knew I could trust him to really, really help me look good. And we went on right before Lex Luger and Tatanka and tore the house down. And we came back and they were so pissed off. They're like, "Well, what is that?"
Yeah.
But I'm like,
they're
the stars. They're going to go out and people are going to pop for them. But it was like, why would you put them on and let them do that? And then us go out and do our thing, So it was like a lesson learned by me because they're like, okay, don't piss another guy's Cheerios. But that wasn't my intent. My intent was getting a job.
But that's learning and knowing your place on the card. And it's like, you know what, maybe you can't go and dive to the outside because the main event is going to be a no holds whatever clusterfuck. So you need to save those spots. You know?
So it was really cool. I think both times I had the tryout experience with them was awesome. But I learned I'm not going to sit by the phone. I still have a job and opportunity. So I just kept doing my thing.
Oh, dude. And, from there you went on to WCW and had a hell of a run there, 6-year run, going in there, working with Kevin Sullivan, becoming a part of the Dungeon of Doom and, creating the Hugh Morris gimmick, which I thought, like, when I first started seeing that, I really thought it was cool. It was something different, the play on words, humorous and everything like that. So it was an easy gimmick to sort of wrap your head around, if that makes sense. It's like sort of, okay, get it. He's a psycho, almost, I don't want to say like similar to like a Riddler type of feel to it. That's how I always sort of resonated with it. Was kind of reminded me like the Riddler from Batman. But like more psychotic, because you know what I mean? Like the Riddler back then was very like, cartoonish.
Yes.
But your character was like different level.
Thank you. And that was just an accident. Kevin, they didn't know what they were going to do with me. So they named me Man of Question. Excuse me, sorry about that. So they put question marks. He took a pair of tights I had. I sent them to him. They put question marks all over it. And they said, "Until we figure it out, you're the Man of Question." I went, "Okay." So I thought I was going in as Crash, but no, you're the Man of Question. And I had an opportunity to cut a promo at CNN Center. And they said, cut the promo on Randy Savage, and I was like freaking out in my head. I'm like, what am I supposed to say about Randy Savage? I don't know him. I've never met him. I don't, I only know him
Yeah.
as a fan. So I kind of forgot what I was going to say. So I started to laugh. I did I was all nervous, but they were filming it. And then, so Terry Taylor stopped me and said, "Can you do that again?" And I thought he was talking about the verbiage. And I said, "Sure." And he goes, "No, the laugh." So I did the laugh, and they were like, "Okay, thank you." And they kind of dismissed me. And I was like, crap, I got fired before, I guess I'm not good at I spent all my years in Japan and Puerto Rico. We didn't do a lot of talking.
Yeah, I mean, well, wrestling in like Mexico, Japan,
Yeah.
Puerto Rico, like it's all in-ring action. That's how the story is told, right?
Yeah. And so next thing I know, I was on Saturday Night Main Event. There was my premiering next week on this show, The Man of Question. And then they called me humorous. But I think it was, I'm not sure if it was Shivani or Heenan said Hugh Morris. They didn't use it as one word. And me being a big dope, I went in and goes, who named someone Hugh Morris? And Sullivan looks at me like, you big idiot. It's humorous. I said, he said Hugh Morris. And he goes, it's humorous.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't get it. So then they put the laughing man, Hugh Morris. Because I told him, I said, if I'm confused, imagine with other people.
100%. It's
So
like
then
you gotta break it down, yeah.
Yeah, and so he said, go out there and be your crazy self, you dumb bastard. And so then I and we did all the thing, but then when it was time, you stuck at two people, and it's always that thing of yourself times 10,
Yeah,
I
100%.
had a lot of fun experimenting with it, and how do you go wrong? You're in there with the Dungeon of Doom and all those. They were the biggest guys in the company, and
100%.
the rib was always on me because I'd always be the first guy to the ring to get the chair shots from Hogan and Sting and Luger and all these other guys. I'm like, I hate this dungeon thing. But it was
because you were the new guy coming in. These guys,
and they'd always give me the pep talk. Oh, brother, you're so fast. You go first. We'll be behind you. And I'm like, these guys really like me. I'm going first. I'm like,
they're working you.
I'm getting my ass handed to me, and I'm going, I don't want to be liked anymore.
Yeah, I want to be the. I don't want to be the popular kid at school here. But like, one thing, like when you realize like you could do the moonsault, because that was to me is like you're a big dude, and like I remember seeing that, and like when you see guys like yourself, Bam Bam, who you mentioned earlier, being able to do some amazing athletic things, defying gravity in a lot of ways. But when did you realize that you could do a moonsault? Because it was absolute, like your moonsault was priceless.
I wrote a book. I put it in the book, and it was crazy. I didn't have any expectations of doing that. I had I was a big guy, and I moved well. We had an off day in Puerto Rico. We were sitting around the pool. It was a belly whop contest. Everybody's trying to hit who could hit the biggest belly whop and make an ass out of themselves. And so guys are trying different things. So I did it backwards and landed it. And Sullivan saw it.
Yeah.
And didn't say anything. Waited till we got back to Japan. He goes, you do that flip. What flip? He goes, the one in the pool. And I didn't even know it was called a moonsault. I know Muda did it. And I was a big Muda fan. And then Sullivan goes, moonsault like Vader. I'm like, I'm not climbing up onto that top rope and doing it. He goes, you'll do it or you'll never wrestle in Japan again.
Fuck.
So I was like, shit. So we did the whole tour. And always in Japan, the last night's the biggest night of the tour. Packed. That night, Mr. Pogo and I were set to win the tag team championships. And right before we go out, he goes, finishes the moonsault, hit it. Music hits. We go through the match, yada, yada, whatever happens. And it's time. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. So I went to the top rope. I closed my eyes and I jumped. And I hit him. Boom. Flashing lights, streamers. The place come on. Here we are, champions. everybody's trying to celebrate, and I'm trying to find out where my heart is. And I think I pissed my pants at the same time because I didn't open my eyes till I stood up.
Wow.
And when we got back, he goes, every night. I was like, holy. So I was a fan of big men anyway. Vader, Bigelow. I was a Bam Bam Gordy, Steve Williams, all the big guys I watched. And I was also a fan of Muda and in the Japanese guys. So then I had to figure out, okay, I got lucky once. I have to learn how to do this moonsault and hit it right. That was the only time I ever said that because I never had a chance to practice it or anything. Every night we went out and they said, hit the finish, and that was it. So again, right place at the right. I never trained like that with Johnny. I never trained like that in Puerto Rico. My finish before that was a top rope elbow. Like a savage elbow, or a power move. And then all of a sudden, Jose Estrada had come to Japan a couple of times, so he started showing me different ways of doing things. All of a sudden, I'm doing 450 splashes. I'm moonsaulting to the outside of the ring. I'm doing all these spin kicks and they're showing me like, what else can you do? And I was just like, hey, there's no big guys doing this stuff.
No, absolutely.
So every night in Japan and Mexico and stuff, I was doing it, and I started to build that confidence. And then I got to WCW, and they said, you're a punch kick guy.
Brawl.
I'm like, but I do. And Sullivan knows what I do, and he goes, you're a punch kick guy. I was so deflated. Yeah. And I took it as, wow, I'm never going to do anything. And then he sat me down like only Sullivan can do. And he sat down, and he goes, why don't you shut up and just listen? There's going to be a time. And when he said it was time, I started doing the moonsault, and it just took off. But it wasn't intentional. It was one of those stupid moments with a bunch of the boys by the pool drinking a couple beers, and I got caught acting foolish, and it wound up, making me a career.
Dude, like WCW back then, like when you were coming in, what was the vibe backstage? Like, was it because like obviously there's always all these rumors that fans have heard, but in reality, fans don't know shit what happened, right?
Right.
Like we hear the stories, we hear all the shoots, but from your perspective, what was it like? Was it toxic when you first started there? Like,
No.
were you just happy to have the opportunity? But like, what was the mentality of the place back then?
Well, the first rule number one is you're the new guy. Shut your mouth. Get a feel get a temperature. What's in the room. Get to know everybody. Let everybody get to know you. But it was really laid back. I mean, it was really welcoming. And once they figured out, okay, he's not just here for a week or two, he's going to stay. He's on the roster. Guys really loosened up, and I loosened up with them as well. And it was the atmosphere was really good. I mean, we were working steady and doing really well. Now here comes all the these legends are starting to come in. Business is picking up, and now people are going. Then it's I've been here 8 years and haven't had this chance, and all the these things start to happen as it does in the business. And it didn't really start to get. I guess if we use the word toxic, is like the last 2 years that I was there. The last 2 years of existence really were hectic. It was really people fighting for position, because you had a different booker every month and you had a different boss every month, and every 6 months, whatever you were working on was changed, or someone else didn't like it and they didn't do it. But the majority of my time there, I'll say my whole time there, I never had issue with one person. Never had issue in the back, never had words. I mean, if there was someone you didn't get along with, clearly you stayed away with them from them. But there's no one I ever had an issue with in the ring or out of the ring that I would say, screw this guy, or this guy was a piece of crap or anything. So I know there was always tension. Usually the tension was with the upper card guys, and for the most part, guys knew their place. And I just wasn't about getting involved in all that nonsense. I got along with everyone. That was my job. I've been told at times I should have been more political, and I would have gone farther. And I look at it this way: how much farther would I have gone in WCW when they closed the doors anyway?
Yeah.
So I wasn't that caliber of talent. I didn't have the name they had, so I couldn't play those games. And at the end of the day, I just wanted to wrestle. It's silly to say I was happy to be there. I was making a great living. I was doing well. Could I have done better? Sure. Do I feel like, hey, if I was given an opportunity, could I have been more of a superstar? Sure. But it all comes clean in the wash. And really, in the beginning, it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of camaraderie when I got there, and that's what really kept me there as long as I was there, because the behind the scenes stuff was all right, man, and the boys got along, and everybody did their thing, and it didn't really get toxic till it was cutthroat time, and guys are leaving and guys are doing this, or guys are not showing up, and it got frustrating when someone didn't show up and you had to work extra days and things like that. But
Did you
I
ever did you ever find out, like you said, the last couple of years were kind of stressful? Did you ever find out, like, if anyone like ever politicked you out of an opportunity within that time, like in the last?
um I've never found out about it. There were a couple guys who came out and said, why is he getting TV time, especially during the Misfits thing as it started to kick off? Why are they getting I mean, what's he done? Why does he deserve a U.S. championship run? Or why are they getting so many segments and all that stuff? And I just took it with a grain of salt because, hey, if you'd show up, or if you did what you were asked to do, I probably wouldn't have these segments. But I'm not aware that someone, put their thumb on my name and held me down. So I know there was a couple guys, all of a sudden, why is he getting it? Why does he get the shot? But
Oh, 100%. And I think that comes, and, I think that where people see that as jealousy, but like, talking, Misfits in action, like that was one of the, hottest, if not one of the hottest things in WCW in that time. I want to get into that. But before I do, I want to ask about the Goldberg streak, because you were like the first guy who
yeah,
basically kicked that off. So Bill Goldberg comes in to WCW, this guy looking like, just like a fucking jacked machine,
yeah.
comes in. What was the feeling about it when he first came in? Was everyone sort of going, like how you said before, who the fuck, where's this guy been? Where's he come from?
No, because Bill was he was at the power plant and doing stuff, and he'd been in backstage and stuff. Um, and Bill was never like really introduced to anybody like, hey,
Next
that
big
guy,
thing.
he's the guy. And no, Bill was just one of the other guys. So the night that they had the match, they set the match up. They said, hey, you're going to be with Bill. He's going over, and we want him to, let's really make him look the best we can do. So I mean, there wasn't much conversation about it. Bill was really, really cool. Let's do some things. Uh, I'll hit the no laughing matter, kick out of it, and do your thing. So we
Were
had
you,
the match.
were you cool with him kicking out of your finish? Because I know like a lot of guys can be protective of that.
That- But it goes back to like that's my job though, and
Yeah.
my finish was established enough where I at the time I didn't think it would hurt me, and the only other person, there was two other people that kicked out of my finish. One was Hogan.
That's pretty good company to be in for Goldberg, right?
And so how do I go, who's this Hulk Hogan guy and how's he kick out of my finish? The fact that Hogan trusted me enough, by the way, on more than one occasion after that, because I took care of him, we did it numerous times. But so I hit the finish, the place comes unglued. I cover him. When he kicked out, the place is like, what the hell? Bill goes into his stuff. He beats me. I think they weren't supposed to say his name. but they said Goldberg, so now it's stuck.
Yeah.
So I was the first in the streak that I still fully didn't think they knew they was going to be a streak. They were playing it by ear. So I was first, and then I kid around. Then I was 17th, I was 18th, I was 21. I had a lot of matches with Bill. I enjoyed every single one of them, and I think it's pretty cool. I'm 56, and if I sit there and go, "What's my legacy in the business?" Tough enough trainer, the most hated guy in wrestling, and that was Bill Goldberg's first match. History.
Yeah, 100%. Those are some pretty big accomplishments, though.
But a lot of people would be upset with that. I don't want to be known as that guy's friend. Are you kidding me? First of all, let's say Bill never became a Hall of Famer. Bill never did anything after WCW. So what? Someone did that for me. So then you do it for the next guy.
Yeah. How did the Misfits in Action come to be? Because, I honestly think General, huge erection. I popped for that as a kid when you came out and you introduced that character. I just remembered sitting there and going, "This is brilliant." And that was during the time of that Shock TV era of the late 90s, early 2000s, which a lot of people probably wouldn't get away with these days.
Right.
But how was the Misfits and how was General Huge Erection, pitched to you?
So the Misfits were put together by Vince Russo because we were truly called. He put a bunch of guys in the room. He goes, "Listen, there's nothing. We just have nothing for you. You guys, you're like just a bunch of misfits right now." So a light bulb goes off, right? And you go, "Okay." So we're trying to figure out, okay, you got nothing for us. And it wasn't as a group, as individuals. He talked to a whole bunch of people. There's just nothing for you. But just right now, you're like misfits. So we started thinking about it. One thing what do we call each other? Well, there's already the Misfits, right? The group, the rock, the punk group.
Yeah.
Who were with WCW. So we got together and we sat down with Arn Anderson and Vince Russo. So the guys that sat down together were Van Hammer, Chavo Guerrero, Lash, LaRue, and myself. So then, and to make us legitimate as a group, Booker T, because Booker T had a gimmick in Texas where he called himself GI Bro. So he was the leader. He was GI Bro. Well, then we all had to come up with kind of like military names. So Hammer was Lieutenant Stash because he always kept his stuff to himself. He never shared with anybody.
Yeah.
Lash LaRue was Corporal Cajun because, he's Lash LaRue. Chavo was Lieutenant Loco because he's freaking crazy. He's a Guerrero. Then they brought the girl in because she was originally one of Steiner's girls. She was one of the 3 girls. Well, they didn't know what to do with her. And because she was big busted, they called her Major Guns.
Tylene Buck, right?
Yeah. So I was Captain Rection. And that was the running joke, was they just called me Rection. But when the first opportunity, and to the night you're talking about, Booker had I think a concussion. He was supposed to work with Scott Steiner at the pay-per-view. And they came to me and said, "Do you want to go?" Hell yeah. Go get your stuff. And we had the military gear, and it was just starting out. But they gave me this promo and they said, "This is a one-time only." So I cut it, this promo, I read it, I'm going, "Come on." And they're like, "Yeah, just do it." So I go out and I was walking down the thing, and I'm tired of not being taken seriously. And from now on, I want to be known as my real name, Hugh G. Rection.
I love that.
So,
I love that promo though. That was so good because the deliverance in it was so awesome.
uh, but we go and have the match with Scott, and I loved it. I thought it was really a good match, and they swore to me it was just one time only. Well, the next night on Raw, as I'm coming down the ramp, there it is on the flag, huge erection. Now
So
I
there
got
was no plan to keep that gimmick as like an
right,
ongoing thing. It was like he goes back to Hugh Morris and yeah.
right, and so that's why I agreed on it. One, it got me on the pay per view. It got more eyes on me and let me work with the top guys. But now I got to call my mom and say, please don't be offended by that name. You're trying to explain it, but I fully engulfed it. I changed my email name, became Huge Erection. Everything I did became Huge Erection. So much so that I had an action figure in the making, and then they squashed it all. They said because they can't put something with Huge Erection on it on the market and sell it. So while the name helped my career, it took away any merchandise or anything.
I feel like you could have had like, and I think this could have been used for like Val Venus. I could see like
Yeah.
huge erection, and on the back, I work stiff. You know what I mean? Like, I just think that would. I feel like that was such a missed opportunity. You know?
So it was a lot of fun, but then we got the okay. I said, let's get water guns. And we came out and they're like water guns, and we sent the runner out, and they got this big super soakers. And the music would hit, and we'd come out and squirt, and the people went crazy every night for us. And we just had a ball until it started to become I'm sorry, his name was Sergeant Stash. So he went into Bischoff and complained that why is he a sergeant when he's been in the business 10 years, and this girl who's nobody knows her, why is she a major?
What the fuck?
And
It doesn't need to make
going,
sense like that.
are you serious? He goes, I've been in this business longer than her, and why does she have a higher rank than me?
Wow.
And Chavo and I, we sat there looking at each other, and then, he said, Hammer said to Arn Anderson, you know what we should do? Keep us off TV for 6 months. Let's starve the people. And Arn Anderson looked at him and goes, no one knows who the hell you are now. And so that's when we went, shut up. Let's work. Lo and behold, Sergeant Stash was out. AWOL came in. Jerry Tootie, my dear friend, my Jersey brother. And there we were again. The Misfits were off and running. And it was a great time.
I feel like the War was such a perfect person to put in there. Like, and you know what, Jerry Toot, I've always said this, is like that guy is such one of the most underrated big men in the business.
Yes.
Alan Funk, who's a friend of mine,
Yes.
has said how much of a sweetheart that Jerry was, and you hear these stories of how much of a great guy that he was, very giving, but just I remember his presence in the ring. He just looked like a fucking star. Like, this guy was huge. He could go.
Yeah. And he could go, and like he was a gentle giant. He was a sweetheart. I loved not only working with him, just being with him. That group of guys really came together off screen. I mean, we really got to know each other. We shared a lot of personal stuff, and it was 4 guys that were really trying to make it in the business, and it really was a good time. I miss Jerry a lot. He's a good man.
Definitely. Also, one of the things I remember is, when you got the opportunity with the United States Championship, when you won it, I think it was like the next night after the pay-per-view, the whole locker room piled out. You know what I mean? Like, that was like such an emotional moment. I remember it as one of the clear things I remember from WCW in that time, and that was like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
For you, were you like, did you know that this was going to happen, that everyone was just going to leak out of the locker room and come and show that respect?
No, it was weird because I actually I got my bell rung that night, the pay-per-view. So everything was foggy anyway, and they told me what the segment was, but all day, like, people were acting different towards me. Like, very cold. And I was like, wow, this is my locker room, and I don't get it. And people were like, hey, this, that, and so everybody was in on it except
Oh,
me. So I was really uncomfortable. Now I got this segment where I got to go out and talk live and do all this stuff. So I really felt uncomfortable. So I came out, and even Gene Oakland never nobody ever stooged it off, and I was blown away by who kept coming out and what was going on. And it was really cool that Bill came out and said his piece, and I appreciated it. Thank goodness that Lance Storm killed the moment promo, because I was like getting so emotional. And the thing that really stuck out about that night for me was, one, the fans were great in the locker room. I loved them all. But Sting said, I didn't even know. And no one told Sting. He goes, I would have been out on stage. He goes, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, that's the coolest shit I've ever heard. And I have a good relationship with Steve, And so for him to say that, I was like, and I think I said it that night, like, if my career ended that night, I was complete, man. That was just that truly meant the world to me. That wasn't like a wrestling hook and let's get the people and let's do this. Really, it was real. And that's one of my favorite things I've ever done in my whole life. And that was really a cool night. Irvine, California.
Not many guys really got that opportunity to have like that sort of reaction and that sort of locker room pile out, like very far and few between. I remember watching it, and I wasn't crying. I just had onions in my, chopping onions. But it was one of those things, like, I could just imagine for yourself how emotional that night would have been, like that. And as you said, like, if your career had ended that night, it's like tick.
I mean, everything after that was gravy. It really was. And still, if I was to watch it today again, I'd be all teary eyed and go, coming from Gleason's gym and just doing the things that we try to do to want to get involved in a business, to have that happen was awesome. And that's one of the things I hold on tight to.
Oh man, absolutely. I don't think anyone could blame you for that. But 2001 WCW, doors closed. WWF at the time comes in. Vince does the big speech, bought the competition. And like, I can imagine the feeling backstage when these announcements are coming through. Like, what was the overall vibe like? What was the atmosphere like for a lot of these WCW guys? Was it like there's a lot of uncertainty here, or were you guys given certain reassurances?
No, we heard for months there was always talk, oh, the company's going to be sold, this, that, and the other thing. And after a while, you get numb to it and just show up and do your thing. You're still going out there in front of the people and still live TV. But we got to Panama City and we saw WWF personnel only, WWF production, WWF this way. And we're like, they're just doing more things to make us scared or nervous or whatever. Lo and behold, here comes Shane McMahon and Jerry Briscoe and Bruce Pritchard and I think it was Pat Patterson. And they walked in and people's hearts sank. And for a lot of us, for myself, I was like, well, hopefully I can get back to Japan. A lot of the younger guys were trying to figure out what to do. And a lot of the veterans were, I burned my bridge there. Now I'm really screwed. Yeah. But then there was a lot of guys, they were guaranteed money, so they didn't care. But they came in, they were really, they were really good.
There's guys, sorry to interrupt, but like those guys that had contracts that were with Turner, not with WCW, right? And that's how like guys are able to sit out contracts and still get paid.
Yeah, they were guaranteed their money no matter what happened. So to them it was like, so what? The rest of us, whoever was taught, I can speak for myself. I was talked to and said, listen, we want you to go out and be the opening dark match. Don't read into it. Start the night off for us. Let's see what you do. And this is coming right from Shane McMahon. So my first thought was, they don't want me on TV. And then my second thought was, wait a minute. he just took the time to say, go start the night off. So I think
Which
it was
said
with
right?
I think it was with Conan. And we went out and wrestled dark. And at the end of the night, everybody was just like, it was kind of like a little sad thing. A lot of people were saying goodbye. They thought for the last time. And, you're talking to production people and all that stuff. And I got home the next day and I got a phone call. And they said, hey, WWF wants you. It was from John Laurinaitis. He goes, you don't talk about it, nothing. You don't say anything to anybody. I'll be in touch. I hung up the phone and went, what the hell just happened, So then we waited and, we made our historic biggest debacle of WrestleMania history debut, and the rest is history.
How did you find, because when WCW came into WWF at the time, there was like a little bit of a break. I think it was like a couple of months maybe.
Yeah.
Between like nothing, and then it's just like bang, WCW appeared. Do you think that they could have like done stuff a lot sooner, like the next week, and implemented it, or was there more like things in motion that couldn't make that possible?
It was my understanding that it was going to start pretty quickly. I mean, within that first week or two, the people that did get brought on to WWF were meeting with JR. We were told to be ready. Then a bunch of us were sent to Connecticut to work out in the big ring, because a lot of the guys never worked in a 20-foot ring. They only worked in a 16 or maybe an 18. So we spent a week or so up there, and it was always be ready, be ready. So I'm sure there were plans to do it, but they kept getting put off. And then, then the invasion started one by one. But I think the iron would have been, if we would have struck a little sooner. But it all comes down to, it was red hot when it started and it came about, and it ended so fast because everybody kept outthinking the process, in my opinion. Like, let's run with this. And all of a sudden, WCW and ECW are combined, and all of a sudden, WWF guys are combined with the WCW guy, and the invasion thing went to, and it was like, okay, back to business.
Like, I feel like the invasion angle got messy. Like, I think it was good in a lot of ways, but I feel like they convoluted it. Like, when you put Stone Cold Steve Austin in it, and it's like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Didn't he fucking get fired from WCW and was like, fuck you, Bischoff? Like, why would he now? You know what I mean? Like, look, at the end of the day, it was to get him over as a heel, which obviously, job well done for the time.
And I think it was a lot of overthinking, and let's do this and let's do this. And all of a sudden you had your 10 or 12 that were brought in, but then people started going, no, we need the other guys. So they started paying out their contracts and bringing in the other guys. So that's when it became WCW all over again, because now you were taking those guys, you were taking the guys out that started it, and and then the WWF guys are going, what the hell's going on here? And you got 200 guys in the locker room all fighting for the same 2 hours of television.
Do you feel like the WCW talent that they brought in, like I've spoken with Alan Funk, as I said, friend of mine, and his recall was he got brought in. I think he went to Heartland Wrestling Association and was in their territory, and basically getting the WWF or WWE guys ready to come up to television. And when they got like guys like Cena and Batista and stuff like that at that level, they're like, "Yep, see ya." Yeah. And a lot of these guys didn't even get a chance on television.
Yeah, Lash was one of those guys. Allen was one of those guys. There had to be over a dozen guys who stayed in Cincinnati with Les Thatcher, and they became fixtures there. They did those, house shows there, and they were never called up. I mean, there was times when we were sent because there wasn't enough room on the road, and we'd be sent down to Cincinnati to work with those guys. We already know we don't have to work with those guys. They know what they're doing, and so it was just they had so many people and no place to put them. And at the same time, they had to please the guys they had already on the roster. So I don't think a lot of guys from WCW ever got the opportunity to showcase what they could do. I think, and I'll put myself in that in that circle too. I think we all just got lost in the shuffle, and some of us were fortunate enough to be around it and at least seen more. And a lot of guys were kind of just forgotten about and left in the system. And then they went, oh yeah. And then I know a lot of guys just said, hey, I'm done. I don't want to stay in Cincinnati. I've worked really hard at this thing, and it had nothing to do with talent or attitude or anything else. It was just you can only put so many bodies on a bus, and somebody has to start walking. And in my opinion, we let a lot of people fall at the wayside because there was just no room for them.
Yeah, and it's sad because like I feel like the younger talent that WCW had, like the natural born thrillers,
Yeah.
Alan, like Mike Sanders, I think was probably one of like the best promo guys that we really saw in WCW at that time, and really was that solid mouthpiece and probably could have had a main event run because of the heat that he was getting, but like again, like nothing in WWE. Like it's just it's surprising, but at the time,
and I think a lot of it was people, and I say people meaning creative and people behind the scenes, already had foregone conclusions of who that talent was or what they could do with them, and a lot of those men and women that were in charge in WWF at the time weren't fans of WCW, and I think a lot of it came from they took an ass whooping for such a long time. And now they're expected to help us get over more. You know what I mean? So I think so much happened, but it's easy for people to put it in one category and go, nah, there was this. I just think a lot of things came from it, and it was just too many bodies. And at the time, perception, and we learned that really quick in WWE, perception's reality. And what they thought of us in WCW was how they perceived us in WWF. And so a lot of talent didn't get opportunities.
Yeah, and it's really unfortunate as well because, like, when you came in, like, did you have an idea that okay, I'm going to be huge erection in WWF? Like, was that part of it, or like when was the conversation when it's like, hey, Misfits in Action is dead, huge erection, we're not doing.
Yeah,
you're going back to Hugh Morris. Like, was that like, oh fuck, like I really got
Hugh Morris was off the table too. When I sat down with Jim Ross at the time, he says, "You're a big man. You move good. We like what you do. All that stuff's done." He goes, "The character." He goes, "You build them up until something comes of it or whatever. But we're not going there. The Hugh Morris thing is done." And so I was like, I'm starting over. Well, how'd I get introduced? I was Hugh Morris in the Invasion. I came out, did the moonsault, hit the guy, ran, and they said, it's Hugh Morris. And I went, what the hell is going on here? So I was Hugh Morris up until the first Tough Enough I did. And I got a phone call. The phone call was from Kevin Dunn, and it was to John Gaborik. They brought me in the office and said, they thought about it and the Hugh Morris thing isn't working, and they're going to have to let me go. Right as we started filming the Tough Enough. Now I'm in California, I'm going, my heart sunk. And then they said, we really like this Bill Demott guy, and that's who you are from now on. I was like, oh my gosh. So they waited for the right time to rib me and take away the Hugh Morris thing and let me be, who I am. The funny part for me was I was being Bill Demott, just being called Hugh Morris. So it was an easy transition, but it was a scary time because originally he said Hugh Morris was out. So when I came and debuted as Hugh Morris, I thought, this is a short-lived thing. But it worked out.
And like going into Tough Enough, how did that opportunity come? Was it like, okay, let's find something for you to do at that stage? Like, because I know that you had a motorcycle injury, you were injured, and with the transition from stepping away from the ring, or
so let's talk about the motorcycle injury,
please.
I was ride, and I'd hit a gravel patch and dumped my bike. So when I dumped my bike, I had this huge bruise on my inner thigh. So when I went to the live event, they saw the bruise and went, oh my God. I was talking to Jack Lanza, bless his heart. And Jack was a rider. So we were talking about riding and everything. He goes, it hurt? I'm like, no, I'm good. It's just a big bruise. Well, he puts in the report, Demott got in a motorcycle accident and hurt his leg. he didn't put that I wrestled that night or anything else. He just put in the report because we were having the conversation. So all of a sudden, the next day on the internet, build them up, motorcycle crash, all these things. And meanwhile, I'm on the road working every night, and I'm going, what the? So there's another story out there about me, and I'm looking at people, and they're going, I'm like, I'm right here. I'm well, nothing. I'm wrestling every night. So that motorcycle crash thing, it's more as the internet was exploding. There I am on the internet again, but it wasn't a bike crash. I dumped my bike. I hit a piece of gravel, but again, thank goodness I was healthy and everything was fine. So that's the story about the motorcycle crash. And it scratched the paint on my bike too. It made me mad.
What sort of bike was it?
I had a big a Royal Star Yamaha Cruiser. It was a full dressed, the speaker, the radio, the back, beautiful. Anyway, I'm a big guy. I had to have a big bike.
Absolutely. But Tough Enough, how did that opportunity come for you? How was that presented to you?
In WCW, I always spent time in the ring, no matter what. Before live events, before TV, I loved being in the ring, working on stuff, working out with other guys, tussling around, breaking a sweat. And so I learned really quickly that guys were in the ring at WWF. And one of those guys was Taker, was always in the ring, and he wanted to see who would go to the ring. Well, I was always in the ring. And so they saw me working with different guys and people I didn't know. I wanted to get to know, so you'd feel them out in the ring. And so they approached me and said, we think you might be a good fit for this trainer for Tough Enough. And so the first season was Taz. The second season was Bob Holly. And so the third season was coming up, and they said, listen, we think you'd be the guy to enhance this thing. And as far as I know, it's part of my job. I work for WWF. Okay, yeah. Sure. Next thing I know, I'm in California for 3 months. We're doing TV, and everybody was super happy. And they said, can you be that guy all the time? And I was like, I am that guy. So they brought me back. I started this great debut. I think that led into my angle with Rikishi, and we were building for that, and it kept putting on hold and back and forth. Then that storyline just went away. And so, but the Tough Enoughs were still there. And I was doing, the guys who weren't doing the main shows were always working Heat and Velocity. And so I was still doing my thing, and I'm wrestling every night, and the live events, I was still busy. And now I'm shooting out. I'm a reality TV star and all these other things. So, everything was working out. But that's how it came about, because I was always in the ring, and they went, well, let's see what you can do with other people. And, worked out.
How were the contestants coming in? Because a lot of these guys were like I think a couple of them had a wrestling background from the indies, if I remember correctly, but majority of it were like completely new to the business, right?
Yeah, just completely got an opportunity. They sent in a tape. They were athletic in some way, shape, or form. What I liked about the original Tough Enough was we came in, the coaches, the trainers came in at the final 50. And then we got to whittle it down to the 25 or the 15. It wasn't already preconceived, okay, here's your 15 contestants. We got to work with them for a solid week and watch them fall out or, boot them out and stuff like that. So I loved how we did that. And then you start to see, okay, one, who's going to be great for TV, who has potential to be a future superstar, and who would just be good to have in that situation. So I loved the process early on, up until they did their last Tough Enough just a couple years, which I thought was a travesty. So
yeah.
But I loved the process, and yeah, you had guys that were, had experience, and funny, the guys that had experience were the ones that were eliminated first, which was fascinating to me. But we kept trying to tell them this isn't about, just wrestling. This is about so much more. So I love the process. I thought it was great. I still say, let's do one more, but do it the way we used to do it.
But it's interesting you say like the guys that had experience in wrestling were eliminated, because I remember hearing Triple H do an interview, and the person was saying, what do you look for in a superstar? What do you look for in an athlete? Like, do they have to be a pro wrestler? Do they have to be like this good in the ring? And he's like, no. the wrestling stuff, I can teach anybody how to get in the ring and have a decent match.
Yep.
But like, you've got to come here, and whether you've got to look, you've got a social media back following, you've got, you know what I mean? You're a hidden talent or something
Right.
that we don't have. Then yeah, the wrestling stuff, yeah, you'll learn how to do all that, but you've got to come with something to the table.
Yeah, you have to have a certain skill set, a certain thing that separates you from everybody else that's in the room. And that's the thing. If you're a good coach or you're good at what you do, and I say it all the time, I say, I'll go get that lady from, who's pushing the shopping cart. Give me 2 hours with her and she'll be bumping and rolling like the rest of you. So what makes you special? What makes you, what's that thing? And that goes back to what Johnny did. Johnny goes, so what? You're big, you're muscular, you're, these things. What makes you think you can get in this business? And then give something to the business that, makes you stand out. And yeah, that's always been the thing is, you could teach anybody to roll and bump and, put a couple things together, but why you here? What
Yeah.
what do you want to do?
One of the things, like, I found interesting, and I've got quite a few friends in the world of wrestling, and the stories that I hear about certain things, the political side of things. Uh, I've always been told with professional wrestling, believe half of what you hear and none of what you see. Um, you know, you as a trainer, on Tough Enough and in the developmental system, names came out and was said, "Hey, Bill Demott, questionable trainer, did these allegations, these allegations, these allegations, these allegations." Again, I hear that sort of stuff, and it's like, okay, what actually happened? Because I believe there's always three sides to the story, right? There's this person's side, and the truth is
Right.
somewhere in the middle. From you, when these certain allegations started coming out about you, how did you take them on board? Like, were you like, was this a complete shock to you? Was it like, oh shit, maybe I pressed it a little bit too hard here? Like, what
Um,
was your take on it?
no, it wasn't a shock, and here's why it's not a shock. If you if you go through the timetable of all the bill bashing, all of these allegations or complaints and accusations came from people who no longer had a job. And I'll say this till the day I die. If things were that bad for you or you were put in a position, you're with a company that puts their talent first. If you were having such a hard time or felt mistreated or being abused or mishandled, why wasn't it brought up while you were employed? Especially when a company tells you how important you are, pretty much entitles you to have free speech and all these other things. You're in a company that has cameras everywhere in the building and everything's recorded. Nothing goes unseen. And if you were that unhappy, why would you wait or why would you put up with that as long as you were getting paid? And then for all the names that were out there, respectfully, I say, are they still in the business? Was the business that important to them? Or is it easier to, blame someone else for your effort or, lack of enthusiasm or whatever the case is? Whatever the reason is, you're no longer in the business. One person can do that. And if that's the case, I was done with the WWE in 2007.
Mhm.
Gone for 4 years, had my own wrestling school, did some shows, but I was working at FedEx, minding my own business, going about my life.
Yeah.
And if it was that bad, do you honestly think WWE would come back to me and say, hey, we got this system. We want to get it running the right way. We want you to take over the system. And here's our plan for the future. Talking about NXT, the Performance Center, all these things. So here come the old stories again, because on the internet, you can bring something up and it's brand new. And hey, wait a minute, that guy's getting noticed again. We can't have that. let's try to damage him again. Well, you can only tell the same story so many times before, it's like crying wolf.
Yeah.
And then let's talk about the recent time. WWE came out and said they investigated every accusation and found nothing. So how much of it was Bill Demott and how much of it was that individual? And I say, of all the people that have something to say and qualms about it, are they in the business contributing and doing things, or they just move on because they stop getting paid? Now, there's people who have trained with me, underneath me, and for years who'll come out and tell you, Bill Demott can be an asshole. He's tough. Like there's no time for nonsense. And they're some of the most successful people in the business. They didn't tell stories or anything. They just were honest. Yeah, he was tough and I hated it. Those are the same people who send me messages. We stay in contact. I congratulate them on their success. I actually, believe it or not, for people that are listening, I get thanked for how they trained because they were prepared for the WWE. They were prepared for the lifestyle and what happened. And they understood that nothing personal was done. I was doing my job. And what people should understand is if I was that bad, then I wouldn't have a job. My job was to make them better, not to run them out of business, not to make them quit, not to make them feel less than. My job was to lift them up. And so I think as the business has progressed, that's why they're going back to looking for people that were athletes. Because you've been coached in some way, shape, or form, and understand a coach isn't there to tear you down. They're there to build you up. And coaches have a certain demeanor. Bill Demott has a certain way about him. I've been called a drill sergeant. I've been called a hard ass. I've been called all these things. But I stand tall and very proud of where my name is against some of the best in the business of after all these years and what they do and my relationships with those men and women. So while I get it, and at first it was like, why am I being attacked? And because I know who I am and it's not true. I hate that people get to just chime in on something and offer an opinion when they don't know, like you said, fans hear it and that's the gospel. So I became the internet darling for a little while and that's when it's just time to go. I love the business. I'm not in for the rest of this stuff, but
is that like when you decided to step away from WWE, like they investigated, they found nothing.
Right.
Was it just like, were you burnt out at that time? Just going, look, I need to just get the fuck out of here at this stage. Like,
no,
is that where you were at, or?
No, honestly, NXT was just taking off. That was our first out of the state of Florida, our first live events. We were in Ohio. And when all this stuff, because it was brewing for months, right? The Twitters and all these things and this and that. And, WWE did their due diligence and everybody investigated. And you're sitting there now every day. Do you walk on eggshells? You do your job. I did my job. So when things came up and the internet was really going crazy, it was a very easy conversation with Triple H. It was very straightforward. I think the world of Paul. I know his vision. I knew what he wanted to do. I was grateful to be part of it. And I wasn't about to tear it down by making this thing bigger than what it was. So I think, and it's not like it goes back to my training with Johnny Rods. I got in this business for a certain reason. But it wasn't to stand there and start pointing fingers and talking trash. And how would me responding to that help the brand NXT and the Performance Center continue to grow? It wouldn't. And you can't win a battle on the internet, no matter what happens. So the more you open your mouth, the more you say things or fuel the fire, the worse it gets. And then the worse it would have got for NXT, the worse it would have got for the Triple H, and the worse it would have got for the Performance Center and all the people that worked so hard. So it's just, I feel like I was a veteran of the business. I worked my way up from being a bump taker to a WWE employee in the head of a department. Yeah, and so that's that's when you go, let's keep this going. I'm good. Like as a person, I was good with who I am and what I've done. And I wasn't I wasn't worried about, oh my God, what do people think about me? I knew it. So it's very easy to look Paul in the eye. I resign, let people think what they want. And if you look at it for the first, oh, he resigned, but a week later, there was nothing else said.
Yeah.
NXT flourishes, the Performance Center grows, worldwide notoriety, NXT, all these things, and the brand continued to grow. Bill Demott has his life, WWE has their life, and the fans had to find someone else to, to crucify and pick on. So
Did you get a lot of like fan hate from it?
Oh, I get, people don't realize death threats. You actually start thinking about where you go in public because you're afraid for your family and things like that. But no, there were so many more people in support of the decision, and people going, "Hey, man, that's not why I watched this business, and I'm sorry this happened." So, and to those people, I always said thank you, but it left it at that. And people, hey, you want to? I was offered thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to come and talk and give my side of it, and I respectfully, no, thank you. I was offered an opportunity to come on for a lot of money and tell what I know, because people had to realize I ran that place. I have every email. I have every report. I have every conversation. I have every file. I have all these things. And I could have become the most dangerous person in wrestling,
Easily.
the business of wrestling. That's not who I am. So it's okay. I'll remove myself from the equation. Clearly, it didn't hurt the business. Clearly, everybody's flourished. And those who were unhappy, I'm sure are unhappy doing something else, but you don't really hear that much about them anymore in the business or on social media. So I think it all comes clean in the wash. And, would I've liked to have been there for another 30 years? I love my job. I mean, I'd go back and be an assistant coach in a heartbeat, but it
You
is
wouldn't
what
go
it is.
there at a head coach level?
Well, I think it'd be really tough to go back as the head coach again after all this time, and I think people would look at it like, well, why is he coming back like that? But they don't realize I love to coach and I love to be in the ring and I love to help. So, if there was an opportunity to go in for a week or go in and just watch and share some knowledge with whoever the coaches are now and stuff, I'd love it because I love the business. I watch it. I look for talent. If I see someone that's really good, I always buzz someone I know and go, here's someone you should be looking at, and here's someone who's promised. But, and I think that's the thing. I could have walked away and went, screw wrestling. What a waste of 30 years. No.
Being a bit of veteran, right?
Yeah, I could have been an angry, pissed off guy and every week tweeting and doing blogs about here's what's wrong with the business. But I don't do that. I never have. I never will.
You still seem to have like a pretty positive, outlook and outtake on the business. You know what I mean? Like from this, we've been speaking for an hour and a half. This conversation, you know what I mean? Like, but speaking to you, you still seem passionate about it. You don't look at it. You don't seem like a bitter man.
No, I think as a person, I think it has a lot to do with who we are as people outside of the business. I am a positive person. I know that'll shock a lot of people. I'm a big faith guy. I know where my strengths are and who I am as a father and a husband and what I bring to the community. But also, I love the business, and I don't understand how you get into something and fall in love with it, and then you can turn around and trash it or trash the people that are trying to make a living at it. I think there's a point of where you can critique things, but if you're always criticizing and tearing people down about what they're trying to do, then you really weren't a fan of it. I was never in it for a payday. I thought it was amazing that we got paid to do that. I thought it was every deal I ever made was a handshake. And they said, Bill, you have to sign. I said, I thought we agreed. And they said, we did, but you have to sign the paper. I'm like, oh, okay. I never questioned how much I was making. I never I never said, well, I've been doing this for 60 days now, I should be getting more. Never. I thought the money would always follow, and it did. I had a great career. I made a lot of money. I'm a kid from New Jersey who never left New Jersey before wrestling, and so I love the business. I love watching it. I love talking to people that are still involved, and yeah, it's hard not to be positive about it. And the other side is it's a little less hectic now that it's not a daily grind, because it's a lot behind the scenes in this business. Is a lot. It's a lot on the performers, but for the people who are making the machine run, it's a lot. So you have to be passionate about it or love it. Otherwise, it's just a job, and you can get a job anywhere. But if you can make a career out of it.
That's kind of how I look at it with WWE, because I feel like every few years they step away, like, oh, we're not going to take any indie workers. We're not taking anyone with a wrestling background. We want athletes, right?
Yeah.
And we've seen it happen like probably a couple times throughout the last 15 years. They go through these patterns. My only thing is, and I look at it from a different perspective. I look at it as like, okay, do they doing this because like indie guys that have been working for 5-6 years, they're smartened up to the business and the bullshit that we can play with them, whereas like these guys that aren't in the business, these athletes, they have no idea what they're coming into. Hey man, sign a contract. You can continue your life of being a pro athlete, training every day. Okay, no worries. And they have no real idea of how the political of the business goes, what bad creative of the business goes. But, and it's easier for WWE to go, well, it's easier to deal with these guys than workers, right?
Well, the other side of it too is, and I've told everybody who's ever gotten a job while I was in charge, if you're happy where you are, making your money and traveling and doing your schedule, do not come here. Don't sign on to the Performance Center, because this is the only place you're going to be. This is what we do now. This is when you're going to lift weights. This is when you're going to do promo class. This is when you're going to train, and this is going to be your trainers. And so a lot of guys and girls that have been doing it for 5, 7, 10 years, in their minds, they're prepared. But they're not prepared the WWE way.
Yeah.
So you go through those cycles of, at one time, look, we took Sami Zayn and Tyler Black and all these guys, Moxley and Pac and all these guys who have made a living at it, made a name for themselves, and Kevin Steen. And now we're telling them that stuff you do is great. Don't do that. Try this. That's a very hard pill to swallow. And so some adapt to it and understand what's being done, because eventually this is what happens. Let WWE get behind you, and then they're going to let you do all the things you're known for. But the struggle for someone who's put so much time into it, of being told, do this stuff now, and then it becomes, after a while, after about 6 months, well, what am I doing here then? Then the frustration, then the negativity and all that stuff. So I try to tell everybody, if you're happy with what you're doing, do that. We know who you are. We're going to come and get you anyway. But go out and continue to be happy, make your money, stay with your family, do the things you want to do. It's the thing about bringing in someone who has no idea is they've never been coached like that. So everything we do and say, that's what they know. The perfect example is Madcap Moss.
Yeah.
Came to the Performance Center, didn't know anything. All these years later, 7 years now? He's been into system, and now he's just coming into his own. But he wasn't frustrated because he wasn't on the road traveling before. He didn't have to break habits. He didn't. So it's a double-edged sword. It works both ways. So we go and pillage from the indies, from all over the world, take the best of the best. Now there's no more. So now we take green and we wait for people to build up their names and their reputations, and then we take them again, because ultimately they didn't make a name for themselves. The WWE makes them famous. That's why the name changes. That's why all these things. So unless they can put their stamp on it and take, lack of a better word, the credit for it, it's a hard transition for people. And then when they get the opportunity, like we'll take NXT. Here's their name. They go to the main roster. Their name changes. Their gimmick changes. So all the things now they've worked for have changed. So it's frustrating, but we try to prepare them for that part of the business. And I think that's the hardest part for talent. And then for fans and people that are trying to get involved, what the hell do I have to do to get in there, you know?
Yeah. As far as like WWE, how things are going now, like we've seen, Vince McMahon with his legal action. What's your take on it? Is Vince McMahon could be departing WWE permanently? I personally think there's no way they can cancel Vince. But what's what do you think could be the possibility? Could Vince be out of WWE?
I think, like, I have no, and we talked about it earlier, so I'm not a big fan of allegations, accusations, things like
Yeah,
that.
no, sure.
Whatever it's going to be, it's going to be. And that's between Vince and the board and whatever else. No matter what happens, the WWE is not going away. Could there not be a Mr. McMahon character going forward? Absolutely. Could Vince be removed from the board? It's possible if they find that he did something illegal or whatever the case is. But the man's a genius. He's built this thing that's not going away. He's built it and surrounded himself for years with people that will keep the machine going. Because let's face it, even Vince knows he's only going to make it to about 150 years old. And he's going to have to retire anyway, you know?
Yeah.
So the people that are around the product and the business, that's not going anywhere. Will people go after Vince McMahon, the person? It's the internet. Of course they will. They'll do whatever they say and want and do. But at the end of the day, the WWE train's not going to stop. Professional wrestling's not going to stop. And it's just another one of those, stories. I think it sucks anytime anybody's put on Front Street for things. But in this day and age, it's everybody's business. And a publicly traded company has to protect itself and its investors and stuff like that. So but I don't think he'll be made an example out of. I think when Vince is done, it's on his own accord. And no matter what happens, you're never taking Vince McMahon out of the WWE.
No, I definitely agree. Look, as we start to wrap up here, Bill, I wanted to talk about the foundation that you head up.
Thank you.
I think what you guys do. You know, you know, alcohol drivers and drunk drivers to me is like this shit has to be made accountable of.
Yeah.
The Kerry Ann Demott Foundation. Can you please talk about us and go into a little bit?
Yeah, and thank you for that opportunity. So almost 7 years ago, in October of 2015, my youngest daughter was on her way home and she was killed in a head-on collision. A drunk driver hit her head-on and took her life instantly. So you're trying to navigate what that means, and you're a dad.
Yeah.
So all you always think is the good things and what you can do for your kids and how things are going. She's 20 years old. She was getting ready to graduate college. She had her whole life in front of her. And you have to decide what you're going to do. And so I had to sit down with my other daughter and my son and my wife, and we were trying to figure out life. And I always taught my kids to be better people and to do things. And I knew what Kerry was going to do. So we started the foundation to bring more awareness to drunk driving. What it turned out to be was the more people I met and families that were affected, and as we're trying to figure out how to keep moving forward, Kerry's mission kept coming forward and people kept sharing. And so we knew we had to speak on her behalf. And we knew that she could not become a statistic and she could not just be a memory and someone go, oh, what a shame. And so we started the foundation. The foundation started as this little thing. Now I travel the country here. We speak to students all over the country. We work with law enforcement. I have spoken in Tallahassee on the state level of law and DUI laws. We're getting ready to speak on the federal level. And so this foundation has become a platform for families that have been affected and to stop something that we can control. And then it turned into the kids coming to me and talking to me about social media and bullying and distracted driving and impaired driving. And the weird thing about it is these are all things I've been prepared for from wrestling.
Yeah.
How to speak to people, who knows more about the craziness of social media than Bill Demott?
Yeah.
And I get to share that, and I get to enlighten them on how to navigate those things and the bullying aspects. And you talk to these kids and you see it's life changing and you're saving lives. And then I get to introduce my daughter to grown-ups that have made decisions. And we've all made decisions, we don't think about them. But now in a day of Uber, Lyft, taxis, friends, family, walk, buses, trains, we can't continue to let people make a decision that are taking lives for no reason. So, excuse me. I just have a mission that I'm on, and that's my daughter's words coming out of my mouth and saving lives, because that's what she was going to do. She was going to change people's lives. So I've stopped everything. I do occasionally do a podcast, and thank you very much. And I occasionally do some wrestling camps, maybe 1 or 2 a year. But there's more to my life than wrestling. There's your family, and if your family's not good, then nothing's good. And so it's a volunteer thing. I don't get paid for doing what I do, nor do I ask to. I just want to share, and I just want to help someone so they're not dealing with what we're dealing with. And then I want other people to understand you got to be held accountable, because there's people out there like you and I that are dads that are making a living and trying to do the best for our families. And we don't need more obstacles than we already have. So the foundation's it's a nonprofit. We survive on donations and sponsorship. We don't get paid for what we do, but we do appreciate the opportunities when people, if there's a chance for a grant or something like that. And that gets us to the next town, the next city, the next state, and to the next legislator. So the people that do see me on social media now, they see it's always with that cause and the foundation. And every once in a while, I'll drop a short wrestling clip from back in the day, or say something about wrestling, because that's in my heart forever. But there's always more to it than just wrestling. And I think when people realize that about all the superstars and even these conversations, like, we love the business, we want to talk about the business, and I think as long as we keep raising each other up and doing those things, we can continue to enjoy not only professional wrestling, but this thing we try to wake up to and handle every day, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's the foundation, I find, like, and I think we all make decisions, and it's like, as an adult, and for me, even at a young age, I always thought, you know what, I'm going to go out and I'm going to consume alcohol tonight, which means the car stays at home. And I think now, with the day and age of, like, you don't have to wait hours for taxis, you've got all these different things. It's about making the right decisions, because and I think as well, it's not just alcohol. It's like, if you're an affected driver, and my wife's grandfather, God rest his soul, before he passed away, he had 4 car accidents in like 12 months and destroyed cars. And it came to a point where, like, I went, fuck this. And I sat down with him, and he was an old guy. And I said, why do you want to drive? He goes, because I want my freedom. Okay, cool. You've got 4 great grandsons. Okay. Yeah. My wife, your granddaughter's son is 12 months old at the time. You're driving for your freedom. You have an accident and you kill a child that age. Is that worth your freedom, taking that kid's life?
Yeah.
After that conversation I had with him, he went, here's my license, I'm done.
That's it. I mean, and we don't talk about it. And it's crazy, right, that it has to come to that you have to put it right in front of people. But we speak, like, Hey, I'm not against. I never said don't drink. Do what you do. Be who you are. But realize that the decisions you make affect other people. And if you know you're going to go and tie one on, have a great time. We're freaking wrestling for years. I'm not saying we didn't go tie one on. 9 times out of 10, you were in that hotel. You never left. That was the bar. That's where you slept. You know what I mean? And I'm
100%.
not. I don't judge people. I'm saying right now we know what comes of this, and we have to be better at what we're doing. We have to, and this is we have to be better as celebrities or superstars or whatever we are. We have to realize that what we're doing affects the people that pay our bills. And so our reputations are at stake. Everything's at stake. Everything now is judged right in front of you. And so that's why you'll see me, whether you're a wrestler, a baseball player, a football player, a celebrity, a government official, you're going to see me go after that person because they should be held accountable.
Jeff Hardy, prime example. Jimmy Uso, Sonny, these are people that are like multiple time offenders. And it's like, oh yeah, we're going to send Jeff away. We're going to get him cleaner. He's going to come back and do the big grand. Fuck that. How many opportunities can you give people?
Yeah.
Jimmy Uso. Oh, no worries. We'll make him tag champ. Like,
yeah. And it's that part's hard to swallow because when is it more about not the bottom line? When is it about people? When is it about, and that's why you'll see me say, especially with Sonny, I'm very involved in this case 9 times. And now she's killed someone.
Yeah.
Why did we get to this point? So I made a post and addressed the WWE universe. This has nothing to do with wrestling, but there's no bigger fan base than professional wrestling. And their voices need to be heard. What if she had killed someone coming from a show? A car full of kids that went to pay money to go see this wrestling show. Why should fans not feel safe that their superstars aren't be the ones out there causing these crashes and things? So it's not about wrestling, and it's not when I post about these, it's not about the wrestling business. It's about the individual. It just so happens that individual happens to be a wrestling superstar. Same thing as an actor. You could be a great actor, but if you make a dumbass decision, guess what? I don't care what movie you made. You made a decision. You politicians up and down the line, or a regular guy. There's no explanation, and there's nothing that we shouldn't be accountable for. But people of name value should be held more accountable.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think the random guy isn't going to lose his job for getting pulled over for being over the alcohol limit. But like when you're in the public eye and you're doing stuff like that, learn from your mistakes, number one, and make sure you don't have that shit happen again. Yeah. But then again, learn from people that have lost family members like yourself and like some of the people that you talk to on a daily, weekly basis. And I think it gives you more of an understanding and a respect of you as yourself for being a human being and a respect for human life.
Yes, exactly. Well said, man. Well said.
Thank you very much. Well, Bill, look, it is that time. We are going to end it with a little bit of fun. We got the round of applause. How this is going to be, we got our game, which is Guess the Aussie Slang. So we have given Bill the Iggy about this. We have smartened him up how this is going to work. I'm going to give an Australian slang word and an Australian slang phrase, and Bill's going to tell me what it means, right? So, Bill, you've been to Australia. You should understand some of these, right?
Aussie, Aussie, Aussie. Oi, oi, oi.
Good start. All right. So the first expression is have a captain cook. And I'll put it in a sentence for you. Go on, Bill. Have a captain cook, mate.
A cup of coffee.
No, so a captain cook is go on, mate. Have a look. Have a look, champion. Have a look.
Look. Got it.
But also Captain Cook was the person who discovered Australia, landing in Botany. So,
Okay.
So it's kind of a thing. Okay, so here's another one. Oh, mate, he's a few stubbies short of a full six-pack.
He's crazy.
Yeah, I'll give you that one. That's it. So Stubbies is what we call like a bottle of beer. So like a 600 ml beer like that would be called a stubby. So like he's a few stubbies short of a full 6-pack.
I love it.
We make everything Australian. Okay. All right. So we got another one. Okay. Hey, Bill, wrap your laughing gear around this.
Take a smoke.
No. So wrap your laughing gear around this is like, hey, mate, try this, eat this, or try this, have a drink of this, try this.
Wrap your laughing gear around this. I'm going to use that.
Yeah. So I got another one for you, right?
Okay.
This is called Budgie Smuggler. Oh, shit, Bill. My dad just turned up at my place and he's at the pool. He's wearing his Budgie Smuggler.
Banana hammock, Speedo.
Yep, that's exactly it. So you're getting more of these right than what Vince Russo did, and he was bragging how it was. But it's funny, they call it a budgie smugglers because when you get out of the pool, it kind of looks. Anyway, you get where I'm coming from, right? So, all right. So here's another one. Okay, so this is going to be like a bit of a multiple choice one for you. Okay, so this is going to be Durries, Servo, Durries, Bottle-O, Slab. Okay.
Okay.
I'll put it in a sentence. Hey, Bill, before you come over to my place, I need you to go past and pick up some Durries at the servo, then swing past, pick up a slab, and come to mine.
I'm gonna go to the store.
That's the servo. That's what you're saying. The servo is a store.
Yeah. I'm gonna pick up some meat, and we're gonna grill it at your house.
All right, so I'll break it down. So a servo is like a petrol station. Durries are like a pack of cigarettes.
Okay.
The Bottle-O is like a liquor store, and a slab is a beer. But remember, you're leaving your keys here because we're going to be laying one on, so no driving, right? So we're going to keep that. We're responsible in this household, okay? All right. So next one is dog's breakfast. Oh, mate, would you look at that? It's the fucking dog's breakfast.
Disgusting.
Yeah, I'll give that. Like dog's breakfast or something like that. Okay, here's another one, and this is going to confuse you massively, okay?
Oh, gosh.
So this is going to really confuse you. Okay. Rooted. Yeah. Mate, that car is fucking rooted. Or I'll use it another way. Oh, mate, I'm rooted today.
Beat up.
Yep. So that was the one I thought you weren't going to get. So rooted means like broken, tired, fucked. You know what I mean? Like all that.
Yeah.
All right. So this is the last one I'm going to go. This is going to be a little bit blue. Okay. So like, I'm sure you're going to be able to get this, right? So we're going to say the words Franger, old fella, Sheila, root. Okay.
Okay.
Hey, Bill, have you got a spare Franger? I need it for me old fella because I just picked up this Sheila and she's pretty keen for a root.
Do I have a condom because you met this chick and you're going to take her home and have your way with her?
That's correct. That is correct. So it's funny because it's like Franger, condom, old fella is something that we use as a slang word for the old fella. Sheila is an old school way of calling women, and root, like when you're rooting in America, like for Australians, when they go, oh yeah, we've been rooting for you. It's like you've been like, because we think rooting is having sex. So you've been having sex for me, bro. Like it's one of those weird oxymorons for it. But Bill, thank you so much. We've just hit almost 2 hours. That has been the Aussie Slang Game. Thank you so much for your time. It's been absolutely amazing talking to you. I'd love to get you back on for a part 2 because I really feel like 2 hours is just completely flown by.
I'd love it, man. That's the best 2 hours I've spent in a long time, and I'd love to come back. This has been amazing, man. I appreciate you letting me share with you, and as you can see from the smile, it makes me feel good to talk about this stuff and just have a conversation, bro. You're awesome at what you do, and you made me so comfortable. I appreciate you, man.
Thank you so much. But Bill, before we wrap things up and ride up into the sunset, where can people find you on social media? Where can they support the Kerry Ann Demott Foundation as well?
Okay, so I'm on Twitter. It's my name at Bill Demott. I think I'm on Instagram as the Bill Demott. But you can follow the foundation on Twitter. It's KADF. So it's KAD Foundation 1 on Twitter. And on Instagram, it's the Kerry Ann Demott Foundation. And you can catch us. We try to stay busy and local. The foundation has a YouTube channel where we put up a lot of where we speak and the things that we do, so people can follow us there. And I just encourage everybody to pop in, say hello, and start a conversation with me on social media. And who knows where it takes us. And I also want to say I've always appreciated my time in Australia. The fans have always been great. Every experience has been great. I truly hope to be down there sometime. And if the foundation can ever come down there and speak in the schools or work with a program, I'll be on a plane in a heartbeat. But again, I thank everybody for the 30 years of support and all the kind words and even the funny stuff and sharing things with me and allowing me to be human and share with you guys as well. So just keep it up, and thank you for the well wishes and the support. And Piers, you're the man, brother. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Please, guys, go and make sure you follow Bill Demott on all social media. Please go and follow the Kerry Ann Demott Foundation as well. They're doing amazing things in the US, and definitely, I think Australians can definitely. I think everyone around the world can really understand and appreciate where this foundation is coming from, and making people be accountable for their actions and making people want to make smarter choices, I should say. But Bill, again, thank you so much for your time. Guys, please make sure you go and check out our sponsors, healthvape.com and sleeps.com. Use those promo codes MWA pod to save 10% off. Use Bill's name, use my name. It won't do you any difference, but hey, it's always good when people are talking about us. But guys, until next time, we'll see you again very, very soon. Take care. All the best. Peace.